Hello, we're going to talk about Beetle Night, a bug-sized role-playing game by myself, Jim Hall. In Beetle Night, you play as arthropod knights designated by the iridescent order as protectors of the realm. So you're duty-bound to explore the world and help those in need. And this world is filled with layers of histories of the different bugs that have lived in the various places on the forest floor, and strange phenomena that kind of come out of that overlapping history. Here we have some story prompts that you could base entire adventures off of. We have a list of key terms. A couple of the interesting things here are contests, which this is when you're attempting something uncertain, the player rolls an ability die and the arbiter or the game master rolls a challenge die. The highest result is successful. So if I am rolling to climb a cliff, I would roll my might die and the arbiter would roll a challenge die. So maybe my might is a D8 and it's an easy cliff to climb, so the arbiter would roll like a D6. And if my roll beats their roll, then it's a success. And a tie is a failure, but it presents another opportunity. So maybe I slip and fall, but when I do so, I see a cave that opens up. And then we have promoting and demoting dice. And so if you kind of get an advantage during or a disadvantage during your attempts, you may be told by the arbiter that you can increase your die by 1 or decrease it by 1 along this array of dice. So for example, here's an example: a player with a D6 in presence that uses a disguise to deceive the Moth Mother may be allowed by the arbiter to promote their presence die from a D6 to a D8 due to the disguise. So there are 4 different abilities within Beetle Night: might, and intellect, presence, and agility. And they're all pretty self-explanatory, but lifting and climbing is for might, and intellect gives you insight, lore, investigation. Presence is persuading, performing, befriending. And agility is for jumping and sneaking and stealing, that sort of thing. You also get a defense die, so this is what you roll when you are defending against an attack. And then we have modifiers. By default, you get a +1 modifier that you can add to a specific roll. So it would be like a +1 to all my might rolls. Next up is species. So this is kind of akin to different sorts of classes. The different species are beetle, bee, jumping spider, lightning bug, pill bug, and moth. And each one has their own special abilities. So for example, pill bug, you get these emblems, which we'll talk about later, that give you magical powers. But you also get these special abilities like rolling up to give you a higher defense and even doing a rolling attack. Also, different species have different types of movement. And so, for example, a bee can fly really fast but crawl slowly, and a jumping spider can't fly but they can crawl very quickly. You have a health, just like in many games here. When your health goes down to 0, you can actually potentially die. But later on this page, we have this call to knighthood. So this is sort of a background for your knight. Like for example, maybe before you were a knight, you were a Mosslight scholar. Then there was a betrayal from a friend. And so now that you experience that, you want revenge against the perpetrators. So in this way, you can provide some motivation for stories involving your knight. Special items are pretty fun. These are powerful items that you can eventually modify and maybe even find new ones. They consist of descriptors and an item, and these sort of improve your character's stats. So for example, I may have an item like a waxy cape. Waxy gives my agility a +1 bonus. The cape gives me an emblem slot and resolve, which is used to cast spells, essentially, to use emblems. Later on, as you're kind of leveling up, you can have further enhancements where you add more descriptors to your item, and these in this way make your character more powerful. Resolve is used to activate your emblems. Whenever you have a tie during a contest, or just when you rest in a safe place, your resolve fills up. Each night starts off with some resolve, but based on your modifiers you may have from your special items or your character species, you may have a higher default resolve. So you use resolve to activate emblems. Now, also every character starts with an emblem, actually starts with 2 emblems then that you can attune to. And then you can use emblems with the resolve resource. And there's a table of emblems that you can roll on. So you get some fun options to pick from. And then we have some sort of standard equipment. This would be sort of like your mundane equipment that your character would hold. And then lastly, in the book, we have some more detailed information about the rules. So here's the default, or more detailed information about contests, and more detailed information about combat. And we have also some information about resting and advancement. Resting is interesting because there are 2 different types of rest: risky rest and safe rest. When you're resting in a risky place, you don't recover as many resources. But if you're resting in a safe place for a few hours, you recover fully. Advancement is also an interesting topic in Beetle Knight because rather than leveling up and just gaining abilities, you instead will find items like emblems or modifiers for your special items that improve your character's strength and abilities. And we have some pages for notes. Now this is the Quickstart edition, so this is the early edition of the game. And as the Kickstarter goes on, we will be adding more and more details, entire sections on world building, creatures, and adventure. So stay tuned and back the Kickstarter, Beetle Knight, that is coming on February 6th. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed the game.